A billionaire's world of wealth and power can't prepare him for the moment of strangers. Hug teaches his daughter and him the true meaning of love. Jonathan Miller lived in a world that most people only dreamed about. From the outside, his life looked perfect. He had a massive penthouse in New York City, a fleet of luxury cars, and a lifestyle that allowed him to travel anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. Everything he owned, from the clothes he wore to the art on his walls, spoke of wealth, success, and power. But despite all these things, there was a quiet emptiness in his life that no money could fill. His daughter Emily was 10 years old. She was a bright, cheerful child with big brown eyes that seemed to notice everything, even the small details others might miss. She had inherited her mother's soft features and gentle nature, which made her even more precious to Jonathan. Yet despite living under the same roof, the bond between father and daughter had always been distant. Jonathan loved Emily deeply, but his life was consumed by his work. He built his company from scratch, spending countless hours making decisions, meeting clients, and traveling around the world. The result was a fortune that people envied. But it also meant he often missed important moments in Emily's life. Emily had grown up with a sense of longing she didn't quite understand. She remembered her mother, but only in faint memories and old photographs. Her mother had passed away when Emily was very young, leaving a hole in her heart that nothing seemed to fill. Emily often felt lonely, wandering through the halls of their massive home, surrounded by expensive furniture and art that she could never truly connect with. She sometimes wished for a mother's comforting hug, someone to share her small joys and fears with. But those moments of connection were rare, and she usually found herself turning to books, toys, or the city's skyline outside her window for companionship. Jonathan, on the other hand, thought he was doing everything right. He provided Emily with the finest tutors, sent her to the best schools, and ensured that she had every opportunity that money could buy. But he didn't realize that love wasn't measured by gifts or luxurious experiences. Emily needed his time, his attention, and his emotional presence, things he hadn't learned to give consistently. He would occasionally play with her, read her bedtime stories, or take her out for weekends. But those moments were rare, brief, and often overshadowed by his phone buzzing. With work messages or calls from business associates, despite the distance between them, Jonathan noticed small things about Emily that tugged at his heart. How she would pause in front of the window, staring out at the city lights as if she were searching for something unseen. How she sometimes talked to her mother's photograph, whispering stories or questions as though hoping for a reply. And how, despite the loneliness, she maintained a sweet, hopeful nature, smiling at small things, drawing pictures, or singing quietly to herself. These moments reminded Jonathan of the life he had before the relentless pursuit of wealth had consumed him. And they also made him wonder if he had truly failed as a father. The apartment they lived in was a reflection of his success, but also of the distance in their relationship. Every room was immaculate, filled with designer furniture, rare collectibles, and the latest technology. The kitchen had appliances that most people could only dream of, and the living room boasted a panoramic view of the city that stretched for miles. Yet for all its beauty and luxury, the apartment felt cold, almost unwelcoming. There were no traces of warmth, no signs of a family life that felt lived in. It was more like a museum, a place where possessions mattered more than people. Emily often tried to make it feel like home by leaving little notes, drawing on scraps of paper or arranging her toys. But the grandness of the apartment always seemed to overshadow her small efforts. Jonathan's interactions with Emily were often brief and functional. He would ask about her school, make sure she ate properly, or take her to appointments. But the conversations rarely went beyond the surface. He was unaware that Emily yearned for someone to listen to her fears, laugh at her jokes, and share in the small adventures of childhood. Emily, on the other hand, had learned to hide her sadness most of the time. She didn't want to upset her father or make him feel guilty, so she smiled, played, and behaved as expected. Even though a quiet longing lingered inside her, in many ways Jonathan and Emily were both trapped. Jonathan in the demands of his success, and Emily in the world of wealth that could not give her the love she truly needed. They coexisted under the same roof, loving each other in their own ways, but missing the deeper connection that defines a real father-daughter bond. The foundation for change was there, hidden in the small glances. Quiet moments and unspoken feelings. Waiting for the right moment to awaken, this delicate balance of wealth, loneliness, and unspoken emotions set the stage for the events that would soon change both their lives. Jonathan's realization of what Emily truly needed was about to come not through lectures, gifts, or even his efforts alone, but through an unexpected moment of human kindness from someone completely outside their world. It was a reminder that no matter how much money one has, the most precious thing a child can have is a loving, present parent, tanned sometimes. The universe finds a way to show it through the most ordinary and surprising encounters. Jonathan decided one evening to take Emily out for dinner. It wasn't a special occasion or a holiday. He simply wanted to spend some time with her away from the grandeur of their penthouse. He thought that a casual dinner at a small diner in the city might give them a chance to connect in a simple, human way. Emily was excited not because of the food or the place, but because it meant being with her father without distractions. She skipped along beside him, her small hand holding his, enjoying the rare moment of attention from him. The diner was nothing like the luxurious restaurants Jonathan usually frequented. The tables were simple, the chairs worn, and the walls were decorated with old photographs of the city and faded posters from decades past. The smell of freshly cooked food, mixed with coffee and sweet pastries, filled the air. The hum of quiet conversation, the clinking of dishes, and the laughter of other diners made the place feel alive in a way Jonathan hadn't experienced in a long time. For Emily, it felt warm, welcoming, and full of life. A sharp contrast to the cold perfection of their home. Jonathan and Emily were seated in a small corner, giving them a view of the entire diner. As Jonathan looked around, he noticed how ordinary and real everything felt. People were chatting, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. There was no pretense, no luxury to impress anyone. It was just a place where people came to eat and feel at home. Jonathan realized he had missed this simple kind of joy. All his life, a joy that couldn't be bought with money or power. While Jonathan looked over the menu, Emily wandered toward the counter. She was curious about the people around her, and the friendly atmosphere drew her in. That was when she met Sarah, a waitress in her late 20s. Sarah had a warm smile and gentle eyes that immediately made Emily feel safe. She knelt down to Emily's height and asked her name, speaking in a soft, comforting voice. Emily responded shyly, but her face lit up as she felt an unexpected connection with someone outside her immediate world. Emily, feeling a sudden burst of emotion, hugged Sarah. The hug was instinctive, a child seeking comfort from a kind presence. In that moment, she whispered something that Jonathan wasn't prepared to hear. She asked Sarah about her mother. Jonathan froze. He had known Emily missed her mother, but hearing her ask a stranger with such raw vulnerability brought a pang of realization he couldn't ignore. For the first time, he saw the depth of Emily's loneliness. He had been so focused on providing everything material that he had never truly noticed the emotional void she felt. Jonathan watched quietly from their table, unsure of whether to interrupt or stay back. The sight of Sarah gently holding Emily, speaking to her softly, and comforting her as if she were her own child made something stir inside him. He felt gratitude toward Sarah, but also a sharp self-awareness. He realized that no amount of money, trips, or toys could replace the warmth of human connection. Emily needed more than his presence in brief moments. She needed love, understanding, and care from someone who could give her the emotional support he had never been able to provide fully. Sarah, noticing Jonathan watching, smiled warmly at him, acknowledging his silent presence without making him feel intruded upon. She continued to talk to Emily, asking gentle questions, making her laugh, and listening with attention. Jonathan found himself studying Sarah not as a waitress, not as someone of a lower social class, but as a human being who had a rare and beautiful gift, the ability to connect with children, to make them feel seen, heard, and loved. As the minutes passed, Jonathan began to reflect on his own life. He remembered how he had been so consumed with building his company that he missed Emily's first steps, her first words, and countless small moments that he would never get back. The hug between Sarah and Emily became a mirror, showing him what he had failed to provide. He felt a mix of guilt, admiration, and hope. Guilt for not being there enough, admiration for Sarah's natural kindness, and hope that perhaps this moment could mark a turning point in both his and Emily's life. Emily, feeling comforted, returned to Jonathan, holding his hand tightly as they sat down. But her mind lingered on Sarah, and she kept glancing toward her with a smile that spoke of gratitude and trust. Jonathan noticed this and realized that Emily had found in Sarah something he could not give her on his own, someone to fill the maternal space that he could not occupy. The realization hit him hard. He could provide security, comfort, and opportunities. But Emily also needed warmth, guidance, and emotional connection. Jonathan decided to speak to Sarah. He approached her cautiously, not wanting to appear overbearing but needing to express his gratitude. "Thank you," he said sincerely, "for being so kind to my daughter." Sarah smiled softly, acknowledging him. She replied simply, "She's a sweet girl. She just needed someone to listen." Her words, simple and honest, carried a weight that Jonathan could not ignore. In that moment, he felt a mixture of relief and revelation. Someone else could help him provide Emily with the care she needed. Someone who could bridge the gap he had unintentionally left. The rest of the dinner passed quietly, but the atmosphere had shifted. Jonathan was no longer just a businessman taking his daughter out to eat. He was a father seeing his child's emotional needs in a new light. Emily, for her part, felt a small but significant happiness that she couldn't quite describe. Billy had experienced kindness, warmth, and attention, and it felt different from the material things her father could provide. It was real, human, and immediate a connection she longed for every day. Driving home that night, Jonathan kept thinking about Sarah and the moment he had witnessed. He knew he had to act, to find a way to bring someone like her into Emily's life. But more than that, he realized he had to change himself as well. He had to learn to be present, attentive, and emotionally available to his daughter. Emily's hug had shown him the truth. Love was not about money or possessions, but about being there for the people who needed you most. For Emily, the night left a lasting impression. She had felt a spark of joy and connection, a feeling that she had been missing for years. The encounter with Sarah showed her that kindness existed in the world outside her father's wealth, and that she could experience comfort and love even in unexpected places. It was a small, ordinary evening at a diner, but it had the power to change the course of their lives forever. Planting the seeds for a bond that could grow stronger with time, Jonathan went to bed that night thinking differently. The events of the evening stayed with him, reminding him that life's most valuable moments were not measured in dollars or luxury, but in the quiet, tender connections that made a person feel seen and loved. And he knew deep down that this was only the beginning of a change that both he and Emily needed more than they realized. After that evening at the diner, things began to change slowly for Jonathan and Emily. Although neither of them fully realized it at first, Emily could not stop thinking about Sarah, the kind waitress who had comforted her in a way no one else could. It was not just the warmth of her hug or the softness in her voice, it was the feeling of being understood, being seen and heard. For the first time in years, Emily felt that there was someone in the world who truly cared about her emotions. Someone outside of her father's luxurious but emotionally distant life who could fill a space she had longed to fill. Emily began asking Jonathan if they could visit the diner more often. At first, Jonathan hesitated. He was used to controlling every aspect of his life, and he often worried about time, appearances, and schedules. Yet seeing the sparkle in Emily's eyes when she spoke about Sarah made him reconsider. He realized that what Emily needed could not be bought or scheduled like a meeting. It was genuine attention, care, and emotional support. He agreed, and over the next few weeks, dinners at the diner became a quiet tradition between Emily and her father. Each visit deepened. Emily's bond with Sarah, they would sit together, chatting about school, friends, and small daily adventures. Sarah had a way of making Emily feel comfortable and safe, asking questions that encouraged her to share her thoughts and feelings. Emily told her stories about her mother, about the times she missed, and about little worries that she had kept bottled up. Sarah listened patiently, never interrupting or judging, simply offering empathy and gentle guidance. Emily felt lighter after each visit, her laughter returning in ways Jonathan had not seen in a long time. Jonathan observed these interactions closely. He noticed how Emily's eyes brightened, how her voice became more confident, and how she carried herself differently after being around Sarah. Jonathan realized that this was not just about comfort. It was about growth, emotional development, and healing. He began to reflect on his own behavior as a father. While he had provided Emily with material abundance, he had not fully given her the gift of presence. Watching Sarah interact with Emily showed him the profound impact of consistent love, attention, and kindness. The realization stirred something deep inside Jonathan. He began to see that Sarah's presence could be more than just a temporary source of comfort. She could be someone who genuinely nurtured Emily's emotional needs, someone who could teach Jonathan how to be a more present and loving father. He began imagining a life where Emily had a stable, caring influence in her day-to-day life, not just occasional visits. The thought made him feel both hope and apprehension, but he knew that he could not ignore it. One afternoon, after a particularly lively dinner at the diner, Jonathan asked Sarah to step outside with him for a quiet moment. The city noise faded around them as he spoke, choosing his words carefully. "Sarah," he began, "I've watched the way you interact with Emily, and I can see what she's been missing. I want to offer you something. More than just occasional dinners. Would you consider helping me care for her? Being someone who can be there for her in a consistent way?" Sarah paused, surprised by the offer. She had always loved children and had naturally gravitated toward Emily's need for care, but this was different. She had never imagined stepping into the world of a billionaire or taking on such responsibility. I don't know," she said softly. "It's not just about the money, is it?" Jonathan shook his head. "No, it's not about money. It's about Emily. I need her to have someone who can give her what I cannot always give, someone who can be there for her emotionally, who can guide her and love her in ways I haven't learned yet." Sarah thought carefully. She had struggled as a single mother herself, often worrying about how to provide her daughter with care, stability, and emotional support. The thought of helping Emily gave her a sense of purpose and fulfillment she had longed for. She agreed, but only on the condition that she could do it in her own way. Without losing her identity or feeling trapped in Jonathan's world of wealth and status, Jonathan agreed wholeheartedly, recognizing that the most important thing was Emily's happiness and emotional growth. Once Sarah became a part of Emily's life more formally, the transformation was remarkable. Emily's demeanor changed noticeably. She smiled more, laughed freely, and began sharing her thoughts and fears openly. She was no longer a quiet, lonely child wandering through a luxurious but empty apartment. She began to blossom, showing confidence and joy that Jonathan had not seen in years. The presence of someone who cared unconditionally, someone who was consistent and genuine, allowed Emily to thrive in ways he had never imagined possible. Jonathan himself underwent a profound change. He learned from Sarah's example, observing her patience, empathy, and understanding. He began to recognize his own shortcomings and made conscious efforts to spend more quality time with Emily. He set aside business trips, attended school events, and created small daily rituals like reading bedtime stories and cooking simple meals together. He realized that love was not about grand gestures, but about presence, attention, and consistency. The bond between Jonathan, Emily, and Sarah grew into a unique family dynamic. Jonathan was no longer just a provider of wealth. He became a father who listened, guided, and nurtured. Emily had both her father's support and Sarah's loving care, giving her the stability and warmth she had longed for. Sarah, in turn, felt a sense of belonging and purpose she had never experienced. The three of them, from very different worlds, began to build a life together filled with trust, understanding, and mutual respect. Jonathan also noticed that the changes extended beyond their immediate relationship. Emily's confidence at school improved, and her friendships grew stronger. She was happier, more expressive, and more willing to take on new challenges. Jonathan felt a quiet pride, not in wealth or success, but in the emotional well-being of his daughter. He realized that true fulfillment came from seeing her thrive. Knowing she felt loved and secure, the evenings at the diner had been the catalyst for all of this. A small moment that revealed the depth of Emily's emotional needs and the transformative power of genuine human connection. Jonathan understood now that love could not be bought, that no amount of money could replace empathy, attention, or care. The connection Emily had found in Sarah had shown him the way, and together, they began to reshape their lives around what truly mattered. In time, Emily became more open with Jonathan about her feelings and her thoughts on life. She shared dreams, fears, and small everyday stories, all with the confidence that someone was truly listening. Jonathan found joy in these conversations, discovering a new dimension of fatherhood he had never known before. Sarah's presence had unlocked something in Emily and in Jonathan that allowed their family to grow emotionally and spiritually. What had started as a simple hug in a diner had transformed into a journey of healing, understanding, and emotional connection. It was a reminder that human kindness, empathy, and care could bridge gaps that wealth and material comfort never could. Jonathan, Emily, and Sarah were learning that family was not just defined by blood or wealth, but by the bonds of love, trust, and genuine concern for one another. And in this new chapter of their lives, they were discovering the beauty of connection that had long been missing from their hearts. After weeks of dinners and small visits, Jonathan realized that the bond Emily had formed with Sarah was far more important than he had first imagined. He could see the change in his daughter's eyes, the sparkle of trust, the lightness in her laughter, and the confidence in her voice. These were things that no amount of money or material luxury could provide. Jonathan knew deep inside that he had to do something to make this connection a permanent part of Emily's life. He wanted her to have stability, guidance, and care that went beyond occasional dinners. One quiet evening, Jonathan called Sarah to meet him at his office. The skyline of the city glowed through the large glass windows. But Jonathan's mind was focused entirely on the conversation ahead. He thanked Sarah for the kindness she had shown Emily, acknowledging the profound effect she had on his daughter. Then, with careful thought, he made her an offer, one that would change all their lives. He asked Sarah if she would consider becoming a full-time caregiver for Emily, someone who could be a constant presence in her daily life. He promised that her role would not be limited by wealth or luxury. Her purpose would be purely to nurture, guide, and support Emily emotionally. Sarah was taken aback. She had never imagined stepping into a life like Jonathan's. It was not just about taking care of Emily. It was about entering a world completely unfamiliar to her. The grandeur, the expectations, and the scrutiny that came with Jonathan's wealth were intimidating. For a moment, she hesitated. Could she really do this? Could she maintain her identity, her independence, and her authenticity while stepping into a wealthy world she had always observed from afar? She voiced her concerns honestly, telling Jonathan that she wanted to ensure she could help Emily without losing herself. Jonathan listened intently. He assured her that her role was not to change who she was or conform to any social expectations. The only thing that mattered was Emily's well-being and happiness. He told her that he had learned a hard lesson, that love and attention were far more valuable than wealth. He wanted Sarah to bring warmth, patience, and understanding into Emily's life, exactly as she had already done at the diner. Sarah thought about it carefully. She had faced many challenges as a single mother, but the thought of helping Emily grow, thrive, and heal filled her with purpose. She agreed, ready to take on the responsibility with care and dedication. Once Sarah became a permanent part of Emily's life, the transformation was immediate and profound. Emily's world became brighter and fuller. She woke up each morning with excitement, knowing that Sarah would be there to guide her, play with her, and listen to her thoughts. Their bond grew stronger every day, built on trust, affection, and shared experiences. Jonathan watched in awe as Emily blossomed before his eyes. The shyness and quiet loneliness that had once marked her days began to disappear, replaced by joy, confidence, and curiosity. Jonathan himself underwent a personal transformation as well. Watching Sarah care for Emily taught him lessons he had never fully understood before. He realized that parenting was not just about providing material wealth or planning grand gestures. It was about presence, empathy, and consistency. He began to reflect on his own shortcomings, acknowledging that he had often been absent in ways that mattered most to his daughter. Determined to change, he began making small but meaningful adjustments in his life. He cut down on business trips, delegated responsibilities to trusted colleagues, and carved out time specifically for Emily. Jonathan and Sarah worked together to create a nurturing environment for Emily. They established routines that balanced fun, learning, and emotional growth. Sarah encouraged Emily to express herself through drawing, writing, and storytelling. She taught Emily coping strategies for when she missed her mother, showing her that it was okay to feel sadness, but that love and support could help her heal. Jonathan joined in these activities, reading bedtime stories, cooking with Emily, and sharing quiet conversations that strengthened their father-daughter bond. Despite the positive changes, there were challenges along the way. Sarah had to navigate the complexities of entering a wealthy household while maintaining her own identity. She encountered people who assumed she was only there because of Jonathan's money and questioned her intentions. At times, Jonathan's busy schedule threatened to pull him away from the family, and he had to constantly remind himself of his priorities. There were also moments when Emily's grief over her mother resurfaced, and Sarah had to provide comfort while helping Jonathan find the right words to say. Through these challenges, the trio grew stronger. Jonathan learned to communicate more openly with both Emily and Sarah, expressing his thoughts, fears, and hopes honestly. Sarah provided steady guidance and support, bridging the emotional gaps that Jonathan had unintentionally left in Emily's life. Emily thrived in this supportive environment, growing emotionally resilient, confident, and happy. She felt seen, heard, and loved in a way that was entirely new to her, and she began to develop a stronger sense of self. Jonathan also discovered that his own emotional growth was inseparable from Emily's happiness. Seeing her flourish under Sarah's care inspired him to be more patient, attentive, and present. He realized that wealth was meaningless if it could not be used to nurture the people he loved most. The lessons he learned from Sarah's empathy, listening, and kindness became integral parts of his parenting. Over time, Jonathan's relationship with Emily transformed from distant and transactional to warm, trusting, and deeply connected. Emily, for her part, embraced the changes wholeheartedly. She formed a special bond with Sarah, who became a guiding figure, a mentor, and a friend. She also came to understand her father in new ways, recognizing his love and effort even when it had been difficult for him to express it before. The trio built routines, shared meals, laughed together, and created memories that would last a lifetime. Emily's laughter filled the previously quiet, cold spaces of the penthouse, bringing life and warmth into the home. Jonathan's decision to bring Sarah into Emily's life permanently proved to be life-changing, not only for his daughter, but for himself as well. He learned that true fatherhood required more than financial provision. It required emotional investment, presence, and collaboration with others who could support his child's growth. Sarah's influence helped him develop a deeper understanding of love, patience, and the importance of nurturing relationships. Emily gained the support and care she had longed for, and together, the three of them began to form a family bound not just by circumstance, but by genuine love and mutual respect. The evenings at the diner had sparked the beginning of this transformation. But it was the conscious decisions Jonathan made afterward, the choices to be present, to trust Sarah, and to prioritize Emily's emotional needs that solidified the changes. This chapter of their lives was a testament to the power of human connection, compassion, and intentional parenting. Jonathan realized that the wealth he had worked so hard to earn was meaningless without using it to foster love and happiness within his family. In the end, The decision to include Sarah permanently in Emily's life became a turning point for all three of them. Emily flourished with the care and guidance she received. Jonathan grew into the father he had always wanted to be. And Sarah found purpose, belonging, and joy in helping a child heal and thrive. The transformation they experienced was profound, showing that love, presence, and emotional support could change lives far more than wealth ever could. The foundation they built together promised a future filled with happiness, understanding, and genuine connection. A life shaped not by money, but by the choices to care, nurture, and love. The transformation in Jonathan and Emily's lives had begun quietly, but by the time months passed, it had become profound and undeniable. Emily, once a shy and lonely child, now radiated confidence and joy. Her laughter filled the once silent halls of the penthouse, and her energy brought warmth into every room. She had formed a deep bond with Sarah, who had become more than a caretaker. She was a guide, a mentor, and a maternal figure in Emily's life. For Jonathan, watching this transformation was both heartwarming and humbling. He realized that the small, seemingly ordinary moments he had once overlooked, Sarah comforting Emily at a diner, quiet conversations, bedtime stories, walks in the park had been the true catalysts of change. Jonathan made a conscious effort to continue reshaping his life around Emily's needs. He began scheduling regular family activities, from simple dinners at home to outings in the city that allowed them to experience life together outside the walls of their penthouse. He learned to slow down, to truly listen to Emily, and to be present without distraction. Gone were the days when he was lost in his phone or absorbed in work while Emily spoke to him. Instead, he now asked questions, laughed at her stories, and offered guidance when she faced challenges. The presence of Sarah had not only supported Emily, but it also helped Jonathan understand what it meant to be a caring, attentive father. Emily's relationship with Sarah grew deeper with each passing day. Sarah's influence provided Emily with emotional stability and a sense of security she had longed for since her mother's passing. Sarah encouraged Emily to explore her creativity, to ask questions, and to express her feelings openly. They spent hours drawing, reading, and sharing stories about life, both real and imagined. Emily felt safe expressing herself, knowing that Sarah would always listen without judgment. This bond gave Emily a new sense of confidence in herself, which began to spill over into every aspect of her life, including school, friendships, and her interactions with her father. Jonathan noticed the remarkable changes in his daughter and felt a deep sense of gratitude toward Sarah. He understood that her presence had filled the emotional gap he had unintentionally left in Emily's life. He also began to recognize the importance of collaboration in parenting. Being a good father didn't mean doing everything alone, but rather surrounding Emily with people who genuinely cared about her well-being. Jonathan and Sarah worked together as a team, balancing guidance, support, and discipline in ways that fostered Emily's growth while respecting her individuality. The trio also faced challenges that tested their bond. There were moments when Emily's grief over her mother resurfaced, and Jonathan found himself struggling to find the right words to comfort her. Sarah's gentle guidance helped him navigate these moments, teaching him how to listen, empathize, and respond with love rather than trying to fix the situation immediately. Jonathan also encountered moments of self-doubt, wondering if he was doing enough for Emily, or if he could truly change the habits that had kept him distant for so long. Through these challenges, however, the strength of their growing family bond became more evident. And Jonathan's commitment to being present deepened. The changes in Emily were also reflected in her school life. She became more confident in her interactions with teachers and classmates. She began participating in activities she had once shied away from, and developed a curiosity for learning and exploring new experiences. Her emotional growth was evident in the way she handled challenges, expressing herself clearly and with self-assurance. Jonathan took immense pride in seeing his daughter flourish, realizing that these were accomplishments that no amount of money could have achieved on their own. Over time, Jonathan's perspective on wealth and success shifted. He realized that the money he had earned was only valuable if it could be used to nurture, protect, and support those he loved. Luxury and status no longer defined him. Instead, he found fulfillment in the emotional bonds he shared with Emily and Sarah. He understood that life's true richness came from love, care, and genuine human connection. The lessons he learned from Sarah, patience, empathy, and consistent care became integral to his approach to both parenting and life itself. Sarah had to experience a transformation. She found purpose and belonging in the family she had helped nurture. Her role was not just to care for Emily, but to support Jonathan in becoming a more present and attentive father. She learned to navigate the world of wealth while maintaining her authenticity, proving to herself that kindness, integrity, and love could thrive in any environment. The trust and respect she earned from both Emily and Jonathan strengthened her confidence and brought a sense of fulfillment she had not felt before together. The three of them began to create lasting traditions and routines that reinforced their bond. Simple activities like cooking together, storytelling, or taking evening walks became moments of connection and joy. They celebrated small victories, comforted each other in difficult times, and shared laughter that echoed through their home. Emily's emotional growth and happiness became the center of their lives, reminding Jonathan that true family was defined not by wealth, appearances, or titles, but by love, presence, and trust. Jonathan also discovered that the lessons he was learning as a father extended beyond his relationship with Emily. He began to engage more meaningfully with colleagues, friends, and others in his life, applying the same empathy, patience, and active listening he had learned from Sarah. His personal growth became intertwined with his role as a parent, showing him that emotional intelligence and human connection were just as vital as business acumen in creating a fulfilling life. The journey that began with a simple hug at a diner had led to a profound transformation for all three of them. Emily had found the love, guidance, and stability she needed to flourish. Jonathan had discovered the true meaning of fatherhood and the importance of presence and emotional care. Sarah had found purpose, belonging, and the joy of making a lasting difference in a child's life. Together, they had formed a family built on trust, respect, and love, showing that connection and care could overcome even the deepest gaps caused by absence or loss in the quiet moments. Jonathan often reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. He remembered Emily's hug at the diner, her simple question about her mother, and the warmth Sarah had offered. Those moments had been small, ordinary, and seemingly insignificant, yet they had sparked a chain of events that forever changed their lives. He realized that life's most valuable lessons often came in the most unexpected forms, and that true happiness could not be bought, but had to be nurtured through care, attention, and love. Emily, now happier and more confident, often expressed her gratitude in small ways through drawings, stories, and hugs. She felt a sense of security and love that she had never known, and she embraced both her father and Sarah as central figures in her life. Sarah's consistent presence had given her the guidance and support she needed to grow emotionally, and Jonathan's commitment had shown her that love required effort, patience, and genuine attention. The transformation they experienced was not instantaneous, nor was it easy, but it was lasting. Jonathan had learned that parenthood was an evolving journey, one that required reflection, adaptation, and the willingness to learn from others. Emily had learned that it was okay to seek comfort and trust others, and Sarah had learned that her kindness and empathy could change lives in ways she had never imagined. Together, they had created a family that thrived on love, connection, and mutual respect. In the end, the lives of Jonathan, Emily, and Sarah had been forever altered, not by wealth, power, or luxury, but by the simple, profound acts of kindness, care, and presence. A single hug in a diner had sparked a journey of emotional growth, understanding, and deep connection. Jonathan realized that wealth was meaningless without love. Emily discovered the power of emotional support, and Sarah found fulfillment and purpose in nurturing a child's growth. The story of their transformation became a testament to the power of human connection and the enduring impact of compassion and care on the lives of those we love. Their home, once a silent, luxurious space, was now filled with laughter, warmth, and life. Jonathan, Emily, and Sarah had learned that family was not about blood or status, but about love, trust, and the willingness to be present for one another. They had built a life where each of them could grow, thrive, and experience the true richness of human connection, proving that even the simplest acts of kindness could change lives forever.